story was told of a man and a woman who met at work and started dating. The man was very cautious around the woman because he wanted her to fall in love with him. But surely and slowly, he began to expose his bad habits, and among them was smoking. To make a long story short, the man basically got her involved with smoking. This is the story of my parents. My father introduced my mother to smoking, and soon after, he quit. My mother, on the other hand, she's so addicted that to this day, she smokes. But what my father did not consider was that along with my mother, he introduced smoking to my four siblings, to me and my three siblings. Sorry. My speech is entitled, I Am a Smoker. Because our country is trying to increase awareness and laws are being passed, my purpose today is to reinforce the belief that smoking should be banned in public areas. There are three main reasons for why smoking should be banned in public areas, and they are for the sake of the environment, the sake of others, and to put an end to the positive influence of smoking on a whole. My first point is that smoking should be banned for the sake of the environment. There are three things I want to touch when we're talking about the environment: littering, fires, and our ozone layer. When it comes to littering, something that you need to understand about cigarette butts is that they do not biodegrade, meaning that they do not disappear. So a smoker throws them down and it stays there. Cigarette butts are at the top of our littering problem, not because there's so many of them, but because they don't biodegrade. So after a period of time, they collect, and there's thousands of them just sitting around the world. Which brings me to fire. The average smoker, when they throw down a cigarette butt, they don't check to see if it's out. So I found an article entitled, How Does Smoking Hurt the Environment? And it stated that on an average, 900 people die and 2,500 are injured from fire caused from cigarette butts in the United States alone. The third thing I wanted to touch was our ozone layer. I found an article entitled The Effects of Smoking, and it stated that 7,000 chemicals are in one cigarette alone. 205 of them are harmful, and 59 of them are toxic and known carcinogens. When I was doing my research, one of the counter-arguments was that one smoke from one cigarette is not going to affect the ozone layer. But one thing that needs to be considered is that, yes, you're one person and you're smoking one cigarette, but how many other people in the world are smoking a cigarette at the same time? So the smoke collectively destroys our ozone layer. Along with considering the environment, you have to consider those who live in the environment, which brings me to my second point. Smoking should be banned in public areas for the sake of the people around you. According to the American Cancer Society, there are two types of smokers, a passive and an active. An active smoker is a person that's actually smoking a cigarette. A passive smoker is a person that is intaking secondhand smoke by whatever means. I found it very interesting that the American Cancer Society defines someone who happens to be standing next to another person smoking as a smoker. And that is because the long-term effects are the same. Although it might take shorter time for the active smoker, the passive smoker biologically are being affected. Which brings me to cancer. The number one health problem associated with smoking is lung cancer. Yes, there are people who have never seen a cigarette in their life and they will contract lung cancer. And yes, we have people that have been around smoke and they don't get affected by it at all. But it is a fact that cigarette smoke is a known human carcinogen, meaning that the longer you are exposed to it, the greater your chances of contracting lung cancer. Christopher Wren's article on secondhand smoke says that in the United States alone, 42,000 non-smokers are killed from secondhand smoke. 900 of them are infants. And just to give you an idea, 1 in every 100 person dies from secondhand smoke. Worldwide, 600,000 people are killed from secondhand smoke. 165,000 of them are under the age of 5. Now, while we're talking about children, one thing I want you to consider is that the influence that older people have on them. Which brings me to my last point. Smoking should be banned to stop the positive influence of smoking on a whole. Victoria Barnett Hawthorne wrote an article entitled Young Children Are Easily Influenced, and she stated that the visual associations of the brain are responsible for interpreting what we see into what we think of it. Children are prone to being influenced as they grow up. If people do it, they will copy it, thinking it is normal, not whether it is right or wrong. Which brings me to desensitization. I'm pretty sure you guys are aware of the example of a guy or a child sitting in front of a violent video game over a period of time on a daily basis, and after a while, they become desensitized to violence. The same thing applies to smoking. If you're going out and you see people constantly smoking in public areas and nothing's being done about it, you begin to associate it with being the norm, not whether it's wrong or right. I really do hope that this speech did reinforce, for those of you who have it, the belief that smoking should be banned in public areas. For those of you who didn't, I hope that I've convinced or at least made you think of why it should be banned. I gave you 3 reasons for why it should be banned in public areas, which were for the sake of the environment, the sake of others around you, and to put a stop to the positive influence of smoking on a whole. To conclude, I want to leave you with this quote that I found by Wordsview. It says, "It has been proven that 100% of people that smoke die. It has also been proven that 100% of people that don't smoke die as well." My question to you is, are you willing to speed up your death process for a cigarette that you did not light?